To get through to the other side of that training, I think you have to be willing to die for it. Guys will start to think, there's no way I can keep doing this for another 2 hours or for another month or 6 months. And I think that's the number one reason guys don't make it through.
When you say they build you into be a savage, how would you describe somebody who's gets through to the other side of that training?
You have to get through to the other side of that training, I think you have to be willing to die for it. I think you have to be that committed. You definitely have to learn to deal with significant amount of discomfort, physically, and also mentally, from the perspective of there's so many situations when you're doing that job that are outside of your control, right? And you're constantly engaged in these really high risk evolutions, even say you're skydiving, or you're doing a training dive, or you're running a IAD out in the woods, almost every day you're doing something that could potentially kill you, and there's so much out of your control, and you have to learn to manage that. And so those are some aspects of people that are able to get through that. I think one of the keys is being able to break things down into digestible segments too. Probably the number one reason that guys quit that training is because they try, at some point, things get harder than they want it to be. And it's different for every guy. It could be running, O-course, swim, cold water, whatever. But you're going to hit a point there where you're like, this isn't fun anymore. This is harder than I could have ever imagined it being. And guys will start to think, there's no way I can keep doing this for another 2 hours or for the rest of the day or for another month or 6 months. And I think that's the number one reason guys don't make it through. But the dudes who can get to that point and then tell themselves, well, this is really hard, but I know I can do this for one more minute, or I know I can take one more step. Or if it gets really, really hard, I know I can stay here for 5 more seconds. And you just keep convincing yourself of that over and over and over again. I really think that's a key to getting through SEAL training, to getting through any difficult part of life. And if you ask guys, we started out with 300 guys in Bud's class 278. We graduated with, just a handful, original class members. And if you asked every one of them, why'd you quit? I believe they would, if they were honest, they would all tell you of a moment when they became overwhelmed by the big picture of what was actually happening to them. And so the way I managed that was every day, my only goal for the day was to make it to breakfast. That was it. So I just went meal to meal, and that's how I managed it. And the morning is always the hardest part too. So if I could make it to breakfast, I was already cold, wet, sandy, but I make it to breakfast, I get a good meal in my stomach. I might as well not quit, right? Because I'm already feeling miserable. Let's just make it through the day.
I hope you're enjoying this episode with Chad Wright so far. If you want to see an extended cut of this interview, because we couldn't get absolutely everything in there, from the conversations in his car to his lounge to the morning coffee talks, find them all at Patreon down below. Use the link in the description for exclusive benefits right now, where you can get behind the scenes, extended editions, early access, ad-free content, and much, much more with the link down below. Thank you, Patreon community, for making this possible. We could not fly our film crew around the world and make this happen without your support. Let's dive back into the episode.
Is there a way of describing those tests? Because I know people talk about it all the time. I think unless you're there, you just wouldn't know. Like you really wouldn't know. But what's the closest description you've heard of the training process?
As far as the mechanics of it, it's 3 phases. The first phase is the hardest phase. Yeah, it is hard to describe it because you can do everything. You can read the books, you can watch the videos and all that stuff. But like when you're laying in that cold water and the sand is like filling every orifice of your body, that fine sand that's churned up in the surf zone, and you are so cold that when they finally tell you to come out of the water up onto the beach so that they can check your internal body temperature, you're so cold that when you try to stand up, your hip flexors are locked up and you can barely even walk. They make you swallow a microchip that sits in your gut. And so they'll put you in that cold water until you're, hypothermic, and they'll pull you out and they read your core body temperature off of that microchip that sits in your gut. So like they scientifically torture you to the most extreme level that the body can possibly endure. I guess that's a descriptive.
That was a good picture painted there, yeah, because I think, I hear you do a 250-mile run, and then you're saying, but doing this, I had to commit to death to do this. Like this was so much more I had to give of myself to become a Navy SEAL. And the idea of that, to me, just amplifies how elite you guys are. Like it's kind of, I know what everyone talks about, the fighting force, it just amplifies it even more. You're doing 250-mile runs and I'm watching the footage and you're destroyed, and you're saying, yeah, this ain't it though. This is still not it. Have you been close before? Have you been close on a trail or an event or anything like that where you've almost had to draw upon the same kind of strength?
Yeah, definitely. That film that you watched, the Cocodona 250, that race definitely was the closest in terms of just difficulty and me having to just pull every tool out of the toolbox to get through that dang thing. That was the closest thing that I have done in terms of difficulty to, first phase of SEAL training. It still wasn't as hard because you didn't have the cold water. And then, yeah, I mean, you have people there that are supporting you, like SEAL training's not like that. Like they're trying to make you quit. But that's definitely the closest I've been. Yeah, that was a hard run, man.